Hi friends, you're tuned in to Legal Means Business, a podcast by Leeway. We're joined by some amazing guests who help us identify how to take your legal function and career to the next level. I'm your host, Steph Smith, and we're talking all things legal ops and legal tech, as well as other critical skills needed to help you thrive in the evolving in-house arena. Don't forget, you can watch us on YouTube or listen on the go through Spotify or Apple Podcasts. If you enjoy the conversation, please do hit subscribe and let us know what you think on social.
So that cross-functional collaboration, remembering always you're coming from a place of serving your colleagues who are your customers, adding value to whatever it is that their business aim is. In most cases, it's closing a deal and bringing in a new customer. And you are also doing that, remember, in an extremely fast-moving context. So the relationship is key to unlocking that relentlessly fast-paced manner in which you move.
The obvious difference between working in-house and working in private practice is that in-house legal teams work inside the company. And when you work inside a company, you have to work well with other teams if you expect to know what's going on and to best serve the needs of the business. But for a department that's worked in silo for decades, and for highly talented professionals whose education generally focused on technical skills, it's not always easy for in-house lawyers to collaborate effectively with other teams. So how can legal teams ace cross-functional collaboration? This is exactly what we're exploring today with the wonderful Sarah Irwin. Sarah is the head of legal at the no-code automation company Tynes. And she's also the founder of Irish Tech General Counsel, a network for legal professionals in the Irish tech community. In this episode, Sarah shares how the role of in-house legal has changed over recent years, as well as how in-house lawyers can embed cross-functional collaboration to improve the performance of their legal department and better enjoy their day-to-day roles. Let's dive in. Well, hi Sarah, how are you doing?
Hi Steph, I'm great, thank you. Good morning from Dublin.
Yes, good morning from Paris. I do always think my accent maybe throws people on where Leeway's based.
I know mine definitely does. So I always spend a few minutes just explaining, well, I was born here and then I grew up there, and
Yeah, exactly. I can hear the Irish twang though, for sure.
Yeah, and I also so since I moved over here, I've started to pronounce my R's a bit. So like party rather than party. Yeah.
Oh, well, you'll be more on the Scottish crew then with that kind of. And the French, to be fair, they do that sometimes.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we tend to dive right in to some of the questions, but we like to start by exploring, what you believe the role of legal is in business. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. So for me, this has massively changed in recent years. And now more than ever, it's about being a strategic business partner and advisor and enabler to the business. So it's no longer at any level, whether you're very, very junior, training or general counsel, it's about business first and foremost. It's not just a strictly legal job anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned that's a recent change in the grand scheme of things. So I guess what kind of the way it was traditionally versus the way it is now?
Yeah, so before it was very much legal was a kind of a siloed cost center, right? So it was not a department that, it isn't a department that generates revenue in the same way that the sales team does. But it was always very much sort of hidden and out of the way. And that, from what I hear, I never worked in-house in those days, but that caused a lot of friction from a cultural perspective. So, now we're at the start of a really exciting new era of a rethinking around what the purpose of the in-house legal function is now and how it can perhaps not generate revenue and create value in that way, but certainly significantly slash legal spend and save the business money in that way too. So there seems to have been a huge mindset shift in recent years about how do we do things better in-house? How do we serve the business better rather than just, the sort of negative connotations and perceptions that come with being sort of hidden and siloed and only brought in to any process at the very last minute. So really it's about seeing your colleagues as your customers. How can you make their day better? What's the one thing or the 5 things that you can do to add value to their day? I also approach it with far more of an end user focus. So I'm not just looking at a contract thinking that, I'm making changes and I will need to negotiate this with just my legal counterpart in mind, right? I'm always thinking about the prospect customer that we want to bring on board, because the reality is, long after the lawyers do their thing and walk away, the customer relationship is still there, and that's the piece that really matters and that needs to be invested in. So whenever I open a red line or an email from a counterpart and so on, that's always the first thing I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about, why is this in here? What is the concern here? With what will this look like in 3 years' time down the line if we want to come to renew a deal and retain that business, because that's what business is all about, right? So that's what I mean by having the kind of the far more commercial focus rather than the blinkered legal focus. And that really is what CEOs and C-suite level clients are looking for now. They don't want someone that is just going to spout or send them an email with a legal essay, right? They want the answer up top. They want to know what the actionable steps are to kind of for whatever a given workaround is if you're working on a deal, and really to try and understand the concerns of the customer and be more collaborative, have a bigger appetite for risk. Those are the things that are valued now, and that really for me is what in-house looks like. It's how I've always run the in-house function at Tynes. It's listening to podcasts and just understanding the scene that's out there globally. This is what we are trending towards now, and most GCs understand that as well. And frankly, that really also makes for in my opinion, a happier place to work from an in-house legal perspective too, because you feel like you belong to the business because you are more business focused. So that's really kind of where we are now, and why has that come about? I think a lot of the reason is just the relentless, the fast pace that, particularly where I work in a rapidly scaling startup, there isn't time to read legal essays. People need the solution quick to bring in revenue. That's what it's all about. And so what we do is facilitate that as much as possible, but always having regard to the law, just presenting it in a different way.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, it is a bit of a mindset shift, isn't it? So I think especially maybe for lawyers it's their first time working in-house, if they've come from a law firm or even straight out of university, I suppose, it can be a bit of a mindset shift.
Yeah, and I think also when we study to be lawyers, when we're training to be lawyers, when we're very junior and progressing, perfectionism is really drilled into you. That's different to excellence. I mean, perfectionism just for the sake of it and doing something one way because you need to know it for an exam and regurgitate it on an exam piece of paper for that reason. Or because a particular law firm does it that way to distinguish them from, all the other law firms. So that is really drilled into you, and it's very hard to get away from that and to shake that off when you move in-house. And I really do emphasize the fact, the difference between perfectionism and excellence. You can still operate in a way that, produce excellent work, without it needing to necessarily to be perfect. There just isn't time. There isn't time for that when you're trying, you're at the end of a quarter and you have 17 different deals on the desk, and, all that revenue needs to come in within the next week. So that's kind of what I mean by that. So there is a bit of mindset shift from that perspective too, absolutely. So regardless of whether you've come from somewhere else in-house or you're coming from private practice, it's good to be conscious of those things and how the landscape is changing.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely love the whole legal perfection is not business excellence. Like, I think that's brilliant. I'll be using that.
Yeah. You know, and you can still produce great work and add serious value. It's just, it doesn't have to come from a perfectionist place. A lot of the reason that we're experiencing this new era is that, you know, CEOs and C-suite level employers, or whoever you report to, they actually want someone, in-house lawyers, with a bigger appetite for risk. And that's okay, because when you are closer to the business, you have all the context that comes with that. So your risk, you're always ultimately guided by your client's appetite for risk, but you get comfortable with that relatively quickly because you have the context of understanding how the nuts and bolts of the business work, how the pricing works, who a given customer is, and, you know, perhaps that customer might end up generating more work, and so on. So you do get comfortable with it quicker. Private practice is very different. We don't always, I very rarely give, you know, when I'm looking to outside counsel for instructions and advice, I never give them the amount of context that I get being this side of the table. So yeah, it's an important part of the new era we're living in, and mindset shift. And it's actually okay. You do get comfortable with it quite quickly.
Great in-house lawyers can distinguish between legal perfection and business excellence. When working on legal work, be sure to challenge yourself to operate in a way that produces excellent work, even if that means not necessarily being legally perfect. To achieve this, set super quick check-ins throughout the process of your work to ask yourself these questions. What is the purpose of this task? What would an excellent outcome look like for the business? And of course, what is the minimal acceptable legal outcome? You don't want to spend ages making something legally perfect before sense checking your work. So be sure to ask yourselves these questions throughout. And obviously, to be more commercially minded and take those legal blinkers off, you obviously have to integrate more. And I imagine that involves a lot more collaboration with other teams across the business. So I know that's something you're quite passionate about.
Yeah, I like to get on with people fundamentally. You know, I do. I like to get on with people. I like to make a difference to their day, because I'm coming from that mindset I just described. I find that comes quite easy for me. So there's that approach, just the kind of fundamentals of networking about being generous and serving others and understanding what they need from you to make a difference to their day. Yeah, that really lends itself well to collaboration with your colleagues. And that's particularly important because, again, you know, all tied in with this sort of the old world siloed cost center, demonized lawyer culture. There traditionally can be a lot of friction with, for example, the sales team when they're trying to get their deals over the line at the end of a quarter or the end of the year, and, you know, just being brought in on things last minute. And perhaps, you know, that really does create quite a negative culture. So I work really hard on my relationships with all my colleagues, everyone, not just the sales team, because that's who I work with the most, but literally everyone. Because when you're in-house, particularly like me, if you're a one-person band, you have to be able to turn your hand to anything. It could be, a query can land on your desk from the marketing team, product design, or sales team, or whoever it may be. So, you know, you never know who you need to have a good relationship with in order to advise them and help them with whatever their business aim is. So it's a no-brainer for me. Getting on with people at work is a no-brainer for me. It makes everyone's job easier, and it really creates a much better culture.
For sure. And in your experience, what does that good cross-functional collaboration look like?
Yeah, so again, it's, you know, it's primarily there's no friction. So you are both working towards a business aim. And from the legal perspective, you are very often tying law, pure law, and making it relevant to something extremely technical in the course of selling a given, you know, software as a service. And that in itself can be very nuanced, because not all software is the same, right? Technology is extremely, extremely broad. Could be, augmented reality. It could be gaming, it could be cybersecurity automation like we sell at Tynes. And actually, the hardest part of this job is often tying the law with something extremely technical about the software that you're selling. And that in itself is tied to the given business aim. So that the main business aim that I handle on a daily basis is working on deals to get in customers and actually selling our product and closing a sale. So that cross-functional collaboration, remembering always you're coming from a place of serving your colleagues who are your customers, adding value to whatever it is that their business aim is. In most cases, it's closing a deal and bringing in a new customer. And you are also doing that, remember, in an extremely fast-moving context. So the relationship is key to unlocking that relentlessly fast-paced manner in which you move. So, for example, friction slows things down. The egos that come into that as well, it really slows things down considerably. And if you don't get on with people, you're less inclined to want to do work for them or help them, so it's important to get on with people because it just keeps things moving quicker as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think the point you touched on before, and I can hear it kind of when you're speaking, especially if you're a solo in-house lawyer or a smaller legal team, having those relationships across the business surely must make your role more fulfilling if you're working in-house.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's, when I started at Tynes last August, I was one in-house lawyer to 51 colleagues. And now fast forward to March, I'm one in-house lawyer to exactly 100 colleagues. And
wow.
You have to, for me, it's a no-brainer to do my job better and very quickly to just get on with people, to have good relationships with them. It really is. The other element to the job as well that I really enjoy is being an educator. So part of being the business enabler is coaching and helping other people to do their jobs better, to self-serve, so they don't always have to come to me. And it's a really wonderful part of the job to see someone, say, who's entry level or, on the sales team or very new, going from, it's a contract, it's all legal, I don't understand, to running it themselves and to, messaging me on Slack and saying, hey, I got this contract in, it says this, and I think we should do that about this particular risk allocation classic. So and that happens incredibly quickly as well when you get on well with someone. And that's a really wonderful thing to see too. But a big part of being a good modern in-house lawyer is appreciating that you are there to coach and guide and in that way lead as well, whether you're very junior or head of legal, you are leading the process in that respect as well.
Yeah, for sure. That's quite similar. We had a brilliant guest on speaking about distributed ownership and trying to, like on what you were talking about, providing the tools and the guides and the education to other teams to be able to, for other teams to be taking on legal work that they're best suited to do, actually, because they're closer to either the customer or the particular relationship or service going on there. So it's a super interesting topic, that one.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And, here in Ireland now, there are, we're on our 6th unicorn. There are actually quite a few in-house legal functions that are just one person. So, it's really important to approach your work in all the ways I have just described in order to use your time extremely efficiently. Yeah,
definitely. I don't think
and be happy at work.
yeah, exactly. It's a win-win.
Yeah.
So great cross-functional collaboration, especially in fast-paced environments, has 3 key elements. Number 1, strong understanding of the goals and motivations of other teams. Explore how your stakeholders track their goals, check in on their objectives, and join meetings wherever is appropriate. 2, embed legal in the wider business wherever possible. Build relationships and create a network of legal champions across the business. This will help to foster a sense of legal culture company-wide. And 3, minimal friction. Reduce or remove friction from all legal touchpoints, whether that's merging legal tasks into business processes so that they become second nature, or choosing tech solutions that work for all relevant stakeholders. So how can you go around building these relationships with the teams?
Yeah, so again, that it's a conscious effort as well, like in terms of actual practical steps. You will very quickly be put together on a deal and have to work under pressure. And that's actually another good reason to actively build these relationships, because it's, when you're working under pressure, sometimes late at night, you need to get on well with people in order to sort of cut to the chase and get that deal done. So what I would advise is actively get to know, all new joiners, whatever process works for you, via Slack or a quick Zoom for 15 minutes, just to get to know them. That really, really helps. And also, how you approach your work, you get to know people quicker if you approach it in the ways that I'm describing. So if someone new sends you a red line or asks you a question about law, don't send them an essay. Answer up top, always answer the question first. It's usually yes, provided we do the following 10 things, and then the actionable steps to achieve whatever it is that you need. And then if they want to reach out to you, you can add on a bit of a legal essay, or tell them that there's, you're happy to talk to them if they want to. No one ever really does that. They just want the answer and they want to know what to do about it. But that also does really help in relationship building, because it ultimately positions you as trusted advisor. If people know they can come to you and they will get the answer that they need very quickly, and you demystify how they need to go about achieving that solution, that really helps to build relationships as well. It's not all about going to the pub or socializing. You don't that you don't have to do it that way, but it's just to know that just to work on building relationships that way too. Empathy really helps as well. I think I'm quite an empathic person. I find it easy to see things from other people's point of view. But even if you don't, that's a soft skill you can work on. If you understand where one of your colleagues, regardless of what function they're working in, is coming from, what their concerns are, it makes it much easier for you to then provide them with a solution. And being solutions focused is it's all part of that mindset, that new modern mindset that I was just talking about too. And that all just really helps with optimum cross-functional collaboration. In terms of, it's not just all about, it shouldn't just all come from legal too, right? So
yes.
So a really good example of, I always say to the various heads of our sales teams, I love being involved in the business. I love understanding what it is exactly you do, your day-to-day job, because it helps me to do my job better. So for example, I am included we've split our sales team regionally. So we have the North American sales team, EMEA, APAC, because we're expanding globally. So I join the North America check-in calls every week. So it's the sort of run through of what customers, what deals we have going on. And then I can, that's integrating me in what they're doing, exactly where they're at in the deal process. And then I can chime in on the legal side if they need an update in that respect, or a quick bit of advice. And actually I was on one of those calls yesterday, and one of my colleagues who's based in Canada said it's really, really helpful having you here, because it's just a really efficient way of using both of our times in terms of getting things closed quicker. And then also we've set up an EMEA sales team now as well, and they invited me to their kickoff session. So it was really an eye-opener just hearing all about how they strategize around sales. And again, I was able to chime in on, the differences, say, with how GDPR operates when we're approaching prospects in Europe as against North America. It's very, very different. And it's really getting in there very early on in the process, which of course we as lawyers actually like, So for example, in my life as a corporate lawyer, you never wanted to be involved after the term sheet had been signed. You wanted to be involved, really get out ahead of risk and ensuring a smooth deal from that early on stage. So being brought in on what's happening as early as possible is really key to cross-functional collaboration as well. And, it's okay for you as an in-house lawyer, or speak to your head of legal, whatever, for them to speak to whoever is involved in sales and say, hey, can you bring us in the process much earlier? So that really makes my job a lot better and really helps with cross-functional collaboration.
Yeah, for sure. It's viewing legal as other teams probably would, with involving marketing or involving product or involving sales, all from kind of the outset. It's just adding that extra ingredient from the beginning, I guess, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and, I've spoken about culture and improving culture a lot. It's so important. And then on the business side of things, all of that recipe that we've just been talking about, what does that do from a business perspective? It massively speeds up deal cycles. It brings in revenue quicker. So why wouldn't you approach it that way? Why would you want to waste time being unhappy at work and with all of that friction? It's time consuming and no one values it.
Yeah. I was going to ask, actually, what are the kind of business outcomes of this better cross-functional collaboration? I know you've touched on some there.
Yeah, so on the pure business side of it, like I said, you just get through the work quicker. And that's particularly important when you're rapidly scaling like we are at the moment, where there is just no time or appetite for friction and for bad culture. It really lends itself well to bringing in customers faster. So it's really wonderful all round, really. People are happier at work and they are making a really meaningful contribution to bringing in revenue quicker and to adding actual value to the business. So if you look at it that way, cross-functional collaboration adds value in that way too. That's why it's hugely important.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds like it could be a bit of a competitive advantage, to be honest.
Yeah,
getting that involved. You could either spot opportunities or, as you say, just speed up the process.
Big time. And, like I was saying, we're at the start of this era. CEOs and employers are clearly going to favour the person that approaches their work in the way that I've described over someone that just wants to hide and doesn't get on with people at work.
Totally.
So it's absolutely gives you a competitive advantage.
Building strong cross-functional relationships doesn't just happen. You have to make a conscious effort and reach out to people. One way to stay on top of this is to proactively engage with new joiners. When someone joins a team that you often work with, set up an intro meeting to say hello. Tell them about yourself and the legal function in your business, and make legal accessible, taking the fear away. You want business teams to have an affinity towards legal, and building connections from the outset really helps with this. Secondly, be aware of how business people generally like to work. Avoid legalese, get to the point as fast as possible, and provide clear, actionable steps to progress. And lastly, provide the best service you can to your business clients. If you can work quickly and provide solutions to other teams' challenges, you're bound to build great relationships that will benefit both the legal function and the business. After all, relationships don't just make the work more enjoyable. They speed up work, deliver better outcomes, and open doors to new business opportunities. And you're clearly passionate about legal and legal in the tech space as well. So I know that you've now launched Irish Tech General Counsel. Do you want to tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say so as I've mentioned, I'm a solo in-house lawyer, and a few days after I started at Tynes, I realised there was nowhere to turn to bounce something off someone who was doing the exact same thing as me. And I had come from private practice where by comparison, you have an army of colleagues who, have particular depth of expertise, or even just for the moral support of it, just to have someone else who understands, your education and training and what the role is. And bearing in mind that the law profession is very heavily scrutinized and regulated. And we feel the pressure of that every day, all of us, whether we're in private practice or in-house. So there was no kind of support network in Ireland. And it's also in the context of us being on our sixth unicorn, right? So, and I realized that the US, for example, is extremely organized at GC level and for in-house lawyers generally. But there was no network like that in Ireland. So and we really needed it. So I thought there must be other people out there that are in the exact same boat as me that feel the same way. So I reached out to a few other in-house lawyers at Irish tech companies. They felt the exact same way. They said they would absolutely love for me to put together some kind of group. And initially I thought it would be, a few of us going for a few drinks every few months and sharing war stories and best practices in certain areas. And then I realized that actually, once I announced the network on LinkedIn last month, that I've just had so many people get in touch, and we're hosting a launch party here in Dublin at Huckletree at where Tynes is based on the 7th of April. So there's going to be about 50 or 60 people coming to that.
Amazing.
And I also realised, initially I thought, it'll just be heads of legal. But actually, so many people, all different levels in-house at Irish tech companies, have reached out to me. And then also law students and trainees. I experimented with Instagram. So I have an ITGC account on Instagram. And that's been really popular with law students and trainees wanting to know about to understand what a career in tech in law would look like as a pathway, whether it's direct or via private practice. So I realized there's a job to do in normalizing a career path to in-house as well, and especially in the context of this exciting new era I've been talking about, where the job is just a much happier one in-house now. So yeah, there's loads of different strands that I wasn't expecting, and it's really exciting. But the most important feature of the network is that support function as well, because you can feel isolated in your day-to-day work. You can feel that even if you have a massive team, because we are a heavily regulated profession. So it's really important from that point of view too, as well as the shared knowledge and shared learning. So so we'll do the launch event next month. Actually, it's not it's next month, it's next week. We'll do that next week. I'm going to organise an annual conference so that we can also get all of our CPD done in one day. And then there'll be regular, either real life or virtual lunch and learn sessions as well, to really build those connections and have a platform. I'll announce all this next week, but have a platform like Slack to just have a group, somewhere that we can go and bounce ideas very quickly. So there's loads going on, and I'm really excited, and it's been really lovely to have been approached by so many people that were also expressed an interest in joining or supporting in one way or another.
Yeah, it's going to be such a valuable resource for so many people, I'm sure, as you said, all across the different levels of their careers as well. So it's pretty exciting. It'll be quite nice to share in the joy of everyone's journeys as well, I reckon.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? The other thing is, and again, this is like me coming from a place being a one-person in-house legal function. I've sort of created a legal team of all of these wonderful people that want to join the network. So that's the other benefit of it. It's kind of like you've created this sort of outsourced legal function in itself with all of that wonderful knowledge that we have sitting here in Ireland. So it's really exciting, and I know a lot of people have told me that they're excited about that too. Probably relieved as well. to know that there will be that support structure coming down the tracks. Yeah.
Cool. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Steph.
I don't know if there's any final points you'd like to sum up.
No, not really. I hope that's been helpful. And if anyone has any questions or wants to get in touch with me, just reach out on LinkedIn. I'd be glad to answer questions about this new world that I've been talking about, that we've been talking about, or the ITGC network as well. So.
Perfect. Cool. Well, thank you so much. That was brilliant. And I'm sure this,
Steph,
along with your new network, will definitely help lots of people. So thank you so much.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Steph.
Cool. Thank you.